Hi, welcome to the Lone Star Dowsers. I'm Mary Lindsay Wilson, and this is our January 2024 meeting. We are delighted to have you and delighted to have our guest, Kalyan Darshan. And if you have been wondering what is in store for us this year, we're gonna we're gonna dive into that tonight. Kalyan Darshan is also known as Jacinta. She is a musical mystic. Um, she does all sorts of wonderful things. I've had the experience of being able to do the chanting with her.
That's how we met.
Yeah, she's a catalyst for peace. She's a devoted yogini, and she's just a really passionate advocate for the Aquarian Age. And she's committed to nurturing and celebrating the consciousness awakening of humanity. So her holistic approach integrates the celestial wisdom into various facets of life. So creating a harmonious blend of cosmic insight and spiritual guidance. And she actually started her journey when she was at age 9. So she's a passionate about this, if you haven't noticed. And she's also a board member of the Houston Astrological Society and the Peaceful Planet Foundation, and a metaphysical minister with the International Metaphysical Ministry. So welcome, Kalyan.
Thank you so much. That's a lovely introduction, Mary. Lovely to see so many folks here from Houston Dowsers interested in the astrological affairs of 2024. And it certainly is a big year ahead. So I'm going to dive straight into it.
Let
I'll
me
be sharing
just
my.
say that
Oh, go ahead.
we are very grateful that you are doing this. You are all the way in Perth, Australia.
I
So
am today. Yes.
she's across an ocean or two. So
Across
we
the Pacific, across the country, and the coastline here faces the Indian Ocean. Yeah, so a bit of a different feeling over here.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
We're excited. So I know that you all did a talk for the Astrological Society last night, and there was a lot more stuff going on. But I think you're going to give kind of an overview, and I think you said if some people
Yes.
had maybe their birth information, you could just give them a highlight or two. But I think we're going to focus
Yeah.
mostly on
Yes. Yes.
what's
Well,
happening because it's a
yes.
monumental year. I already feel it.
Very much so. I think if I frozen there, oh, we're good, we're back. This is definitely a monumental year. We have a big shift in energy happening. What I'd like to do is really give you dates that are going to be very much high points of the year. So you might want to note those down in light of what they may bring up for you in your life so that you can work with those energies a little more productively and actively. I do believe that the cosmos is alive, it's sentient, and it wants to collaborate with us. And this is an age-old science meets art. And so, we know about, the archetypes that these planets bring, and therefore when they mix and merge together in different constellations, we do see very specific sorts of things happening on the planet. So I'll be sharing my screen quite a bit. I'll be leaving some time at the end for questions. If you want to put them in the chat, if something comes up for you, then perhaps we can address them at the end if that works for you, Mary.
Sure,
All right.
absolutely. And I may kind of jump in and ask you a few things just to clarify along the
Sure.
way. And
Okay,
what I
that
did
sounds
hear you
good.
say, and I'm just going to remind us all as dowsers that nothing is fixed, that the astrology gives, I think, a general direction and field of possibilities, but we can each create within that realm. Would you say?
Oh, completely agree with you. Especially with the big Aquarius energy coming in, this is opening up to every possibility. Aquarius is much about that archetype, the field of possibilities is open. The other thing too with astrology is everything has a higher expression or a lower expression. So we can find ourselves, anywhere in that spectrum. I like to consider astrology, if you don't so much believe in, these planets impacting us, that if you look at the world as being fractal, the universe as being fractal in nature, it's another expression of what's happening here, painted in the skies, how's the expression, what is within is without, what is universal is in my soul. Yeah, it's a lovely way to just get a different perspective of what's going on and why we might be feeling certain things at certain times during the year. So I'm going to begin right here at the beginning. Okay, so we began this year frightfully fast. Mercury came right out of retrograde at the beginning of this year, so we may have had a sense of, okay, everything's moving forward. So there were a lot of planets moving in that forward direction, so we may already be feeling this sense of things are moving along pretty quickly. And from an elemental aspect, this is going to feel like a very, very fast year. So I've brought this chart right up here to January the 20th. And let me just move this over here so I can see. There we go. That's better. And the reason I'm beginning, this is just in a couple of days' time, is that I'm wanting to point out here that we have the sun, this little red dot here, next to this blue character here, that's Pluto. Sun and Pluto, 29 degrees of this sign, Capricorn. Now, this is very significant. You might notice, just to orient you, you are here, right here in the middle. This is where Earth is. And so these are the constellations. These are the signs: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And then all of these are the planets and the points positioned in the skies. So why is this so important? The 29th degree is what we call the anaretic degree in astrology. It means the culmination of everything that's been occurring for those first 29 degrees, coming up to that 29th to that 30 degree. Now, in 2008, Pluto here, ingressed, came into the sign of Capricorn. Now, Capricorn correlates with top-down structures. Capricorn is all about what we have built to last the test of time. So from a mundane astrology, meaning more of a general sense of astrology, this is about government institutions, our healthcare institution, religious institutions. It's about all of those structures that have been built to sustain our societies. So with Pluto's archetype, I believe that Pluto worked for our soul. And so he comes in and he says, what's not working here? And he literally excavates. He pulls out what doesn't work in order to create space for the new. So Pluto can be likened to Kali, if you know anything about Hinduism. Kali comes in and she fights off the demons to make space so that you can, literally birth yourself out of the ashes and rise to a new challenge. So what did we note in 2008? We had the big financial crisis. So immediately when Pluto kicked in, he started to work on the financial system. And since 2008, if you cast your mind back, you can see that we've been seeing like a wrecking ball hitting our institutions, watching them slowly come apart. I think we've become very aware that most of them really don't support humanity at large. They tend to support the very few, but this is Capricorn. It's the top-down structure. It's it's the sovereignty, the people at the very top controlling the people beneath them. So we've seen over this past period with Pluto coming through Capricorn, this has been coming apart. And then last year, actually just a little bit the year before, Pluto, because planets relative to Earth, we're in here, move backwards and forwards relative to us. If they're always moving forward in their orbit, but compared to our orbit around the sun, they'll go retrograde. And in these retrograde periods, we saw Pluto actually came up into Aquarius last year. And this is when we saw that big you know, GPT, AI, chatbots emerging. And this is because as Pluto moves into Aquarius, Aquarius is the sign of innovation, every possibility. It's the sign of technology. And so Pluto sort of touched in here, and then he went back to 28 degrees of Capricorn, an opportunity for us personally to look at, well, what structures have I built in my life that are not serving me? So you might have some patterns, some, even perhaps a job or something that's been very much a part of your life that you're realizing this is outdated for me now. And so this is a period of time as Pluto is right at that 29th degree, the anaretic degree, can be almost seen as a bit of a crisis point, like, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do, while he's still there in Capricorn. But what's so interesting on the 20th is the Sun meets Capricorn. I mean, this is quite profound. Of course, Sun will meet each planet once a year, but with Pluto being illuminated, the Sun is really going to bring to the surface some of this work that Pluto's been doing, because Pluto tends to work very much in the underbelly, deep in those deep structures. You don't always see what he's doing, but things are kind of being shifted and moved and destroyed. And so with Sun now coming to shine on that at this 29th degree, it's going to be interesting to see what pops up in the news over these next days, what comes to light. And then, 29th degree is like the death, the dying, the ending of an era. And then if we move forward to the 21st of January, we see Pluto and Sun both together, Sun just a little bit ahead of Pluto, moving into Aquarius here at 0 degrees Aquarius. So happy birthday to Aquarians. Your birthday will be taking place in that following month. And so now you're going to see this journey of Pluto beginning to move through Aquarius. Now, Pluto is going to spend quite a few years, all the way up to 2043. Pluto takes 248 years to revolve around the Sun. So we have quite a bit of time for Pluto to be innovating our society. So we're likely to see so much shift, particularly in the technological age. Everything from how we do business to how we do our healthcare, certainly our governments, everything that really relates to Plutonic themes is going to be brought into this new light of Aquarius. Now, what will happen, Pluto is going to actually duck back into Capricorn one last time on September the 1st. So that might be a date to note. And he's going to hang out there at that 29th degree yet again through till November the 19th. And then on November the 19th, Pluto will re-enter Aquarius, and then that's where he'll remain then all the way through till 2043.
Okay, so what would that actually mean, Pluto and Capricorn?
So
in layman's
Pluto
terms.
Yeah, so Pluto is like the excavator. His mission is, what's not working here, let's destroy it. He takes no prisoners. He doesn't mind if it puts you into a tizzy. If you have a Pluto transit in your birth chart, these can be periods of time that are very unsettling. It can be a period where, your job just vanishes. It can be a time where your relationships massively transform. But Pluto works very slowly. When you have a Pluto transit, for example, he might, in fact, conjunct your Sun, align with your Sun. He might square with your Mercury. These are all transits where something very fundamental in your life pertaining to the planet that he's aspecting, that he's transiting, represents. So for example, if you had a Mercury transit, you're going to have some fundamental shifts in how you think about things, how you organize the information in your mind. Might be a period of time where you go back to school and learn something new. So Pluto is very much works with the death and dying process in order to create a space so that more of your light can come and shine through. So since 2008, collectively, we've seen so much change. And, there were some incredible Plutonic transits that really, worked very timely with COVID. We saw how that really made huge shifts to our planet in every respect. They were very much Plutonic. So coming out of Capricorn, this is about the age-old established structures. He's been putting cracks in those systems. And now as we move into Aquarius between now and 2043, we're going to see those holes filled with something new. And as I mentioned too, Capricorn is very much about the top-down structure. We've had to pay the gatekeeper in order to move up and find a higher position in those structures. Corporations are a classic example. Whereas with Pluto moving into Aquarius, Aquarius is about the people. We're going to see a return of power to the people. Pluto is about the restoration of power. So anytime you have a transit in your chart with Pluto, whilst it might be very unsettling and very disruptive, over the course of time, what you're going to find is it's going to restore some of your personal power in an aspect of your life. So for example, if it was working with your Venus, Venus can be about your relationships. It could be where in a relationship, someone was really overpowering you and you might be deeply in love with them, but it might destroy that relationship. And then, wow, there's this sense of real self-empowerment coming back, and you therefore then find a relationship that serves that, where there's more equanimity. So I think, does that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to have to go figure out where my Pluto transit is in my birth
Yes,
chart.
yes, and look to where your Pluto is. So as I said, Pluto's going to move in Aquarius, and I'm going to just switch my screen quickly to show you a different image here. This one I was put together for the astrologer Alicia Dodson. And let me see if I can find that. I thought I had it up here. Maybe I don't at the moment. But that's okay. I can talk it through. Basically, there are different generations because it moves so very slowly. Actually, I think I can find it. Pluto is very much a generational planet. So it impacts generations because he spends time in signs for, up to 20 years. Let's see, coming back here, there we go, we want this one here.
One of the words that I've heard used to describe this year a lot is revolution. And it sounds like that Pluto really supports that, and the Aquarius, revolution as things that are not working are being dismantled, destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. The reason why we're using that word revolution is because this is part of the archetype of Aquarius. Aquarius is a humanitarian sign, the most humanitarian sign in the astrology. But in saying that, that often comes with, that sort of revolutionary situation. We're going to see, as I said, like power to the people really deciding enough is enough. We really want some fair and justice, equity here. So I've just put this screen up here. This is going to give you an indication of where your Pluto is based on the year that you were born. So if you were a baby boomer or from the previous silent generation born between 1930 and 1957, your Pluto is in Leo. I won't go ahead and read all of that. You can see where you fall. But basically, this means how is your Pluto going to interact with this transiting Pluto as it moves through Aquarius? So for example, the silent generation and the baby boomers, it's going to be opposite Pluto because Aquarius and Leo are opposite. Leo is very much sovereign, royalty. With Pluto sort of in that opposition, we're probably going to see a lot of, the sovereign systems really breaking down. And we might have even have a bit of a precursor with losing, Queen Elizabeth, perhaps the last really great monarch who really bestowed those very much royal values that we've seen. We'll see whether or not the king is able to sort of move forward with that. So we're going to see challenges to people's identity who have Pluto in Leo, having to really look at how they are relevant. So there's going to be like a fundamental shift in how they really move into this new age of technology, which is, Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto in Virgo, this is my era, Generation X, it's going to be making 150-degree, what we call a quincunx. So there's this like, I've got to readjust. Quincunx is those 150-degree angles. It's like trying to mix water and oil. So it's going to be a period where you're really trying to sort of reevaluate, what it is that we're doing to refine that, to sort of make this adjustment to become relevant. And then Pluto in Libra Generation X, and the xennials, as they're sometimes called, they're going to be actually experiencing a trine, and trines, they're like triangles. So it's quite favorable. There's a real synergy there where they're going to find themselves to be really coming into their truth. And really, sort of breaking the boundaries of the past, sort of being very much pertinent to recreating this future. People who are the millennials with Pluto in Scorpios, Pluto actually rules Scorpios. So those people are very, very deep and intense personalities. But these people are going to feel that their personal values are probably going to change. And they're going to have to sort of figure out how they're going to shift the way that they use their energy, because they're going to be having a square, and squares are very challenging. Something has to give. A square in the chart is a 90-degree angle. It's like a giveaway sign. Who's going to go first? So there's this real sort of struggle, if you will. And then those with Pluto in Sagittarius, the millennials and Gen Z, it's a sextile, it's a 60-degree angle. And so that's much more sort of cooperative. So they're going to find this period of time to be very opportunistic for them. Yeah. So I'll move ahead now to, let's see. I'm going to move now through to January 27, just a week away. What's important about this date, if you want to note this one down, is this planet here, Uranus. Uranus actually rules Aquarius. So it has a similar archetype. Uranus is that first planet that we actually can't see. So it was actually discovered when Pluto was in Aquarius. It was a big discovery. Wow, there are things out there that exist that we can't see. It was this big shift in consciousness. You can imagine, this was back in the 1800s, but this was so incredible for humans to realize that there were things beyond our physical sight and our five senses that existed, with Uranus being this big discovery. So Uranus rules Aquarius. It's the revolutionary, it's the innovator. Wherever you have Uranus in your own chart, this is going to show you where your innovative self is, where your inner genius lies. So, for example, right now we have Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus spends 7 years in every sign. Taurus is all about the earth. It's about our resources. And so we've seen, our resources, money. This has been this whole period where cryptocurrency has been emerging. And along with that, how we're using renewables and trying to figure out our way forward to shift the resources that we use to be more sustainable. So on this particular day, Uranus has been going retrograde, backwards as it were, for some months now, and now he's going to be stationing to go direct. And on this very day, notice up here, this is Mercury of the mind. Mercury is all about how we think, how we organize information. And this red guy here is Mars. This is our will. This is how we assert ourselves. It can be feisty. I like to think of him as the spiritual warrior. But they're in a conjunction. They're together at 17 degrees of Capricorn. Capricorn's also an earth sign, that very, established earth. And it's making this lovely trine, a 120 degree, very harmonious with Uranus as it's moving forward. So this is going to be a day where you might really feel compelled to make changes to your daily habits, to your work schedule. This could be a time where you might want to sit down with a pen and paper and really consider who it is that you are moving through your day-to-day routine, how you're creating in the physical world, how you are personally resourced, how do you want to bring your will and your energy into the future sort of established structures that you have. So while they've just been torn down by Pluto creating that space, it's like, how can I do something new? How can I restructure my day, my work, my life, get that new job or something along those lines that's going to build a new foundation for myself moving forward, that's more sustainable, that's healthier, etc. So we'll continue to move right along. And now
That's really for everybody. What you're talking about, these
yes,
aspects everyone
yes,
will kind of
yes,
be in that place where they're, really looking
exactly.
at what changes,
Yes,
do I need and want to make.
yes. If you want to pull up your birth chart and then play this video back to see how this is going to affect you more personally, let me just pull my own chart up so you can see what I would do with this information. So here is my chart. So I'm going to look at where Taurus is, and that was that 19 degrees. So 19 degrees of Taurus, this is where Uranus is in my chart. And then you look at, what number is this? This is the house placement. It's in my 11th house. So the 11th house correlates with how I bring my resources and myself into the broader community. And in terms of these house placements, if you want to just take a little note, I can put it into the chat. On this website, I have an outline of what all of those house placements mean. I'll just post that link in the chat. And so that way, if I go back to my chart, I can say, okay, well, it's in my 11th house where Uranus is, but Capricorn, let's move the chat away. Capricorn is in my 6th house. So 6th house, as you'll see, if you look at that side, is all about my daily routine. It's about my health and wellness protocols. So Uranus, who brings about sudden change, unlike Pluto, who excavates very slowly. Uranus, on the other hand, is like pew 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 pew. He throws like lightning bolts at things. So if we go back to, I'll just finish off here. So I've got this trine in my chart between the 11th house and the 6th house. So I would be considering the themes of those two houses and how that is going to impact me. So you can really have a good, introspective, contemplative look at, what is being activated for me in the 11th house. This could be a really big shift to, like right now, I'm meeting all of you beautiful people in a different community. 11th house is community. So this is quite startling. This is sort of Uranian for me. I'm meeting all these beautiful new people and I didn't anticipate that. And then, my daily routine, how can this impact what I'm doing day to day? Maybe I put an email out to you each and every day, or, you get the idea. So now coming back to...
So if we wanted to come back and look at that, so we would look at what house Taurus is in for each of us and what
Yes,
house
and where that degree
Capricorn.
point is. Yes,
Mhm.
so each of these this is 5, 10, 15, 20 degrees. I know that this is happening at 19 degrees right there. And it was 17 over here. So it's my 11th and 6th house. You'll be able to find your house placements if you know what time you were born, because the houses are derived by your birth time. Your birth time denotes where your ascendant is. If you've heard of your rising sign, this ascendant axis is what was coming up over the eastern horizon at the time of my birth. So for me, 24 degrees of Cancer was at that eastern horizon. So that marks my ascendant. And then there are different ways you can calculate the houses without getting too technical, Placidius or whole sign. They all actually work, to be honest, because they're all relative working together. But that is the way that you can find any degree point in your chart. Just, you know, if it's a full moon, a new moon, an eclipse, any of the dates that I talk about moving forward, you can find them in your chart and then go to that site that I've put in the chat and look at the houses and look to see, does this conjunct? Is there a planet? So do I have a planet at 19 degrees in my chart? Well, I have 20 degrees here and 15 degrees here with my Mars and my Sun. And so they're making, 15 Sun. We've got a square with this Mercury and Mars. So that could be really quite challenging for me in the way that I feel I can move through my world shining and radiating my light. So you can really have some very interesting contemplative times, because remember, this is an art science. It's very open to interpretation, and as I mentioned earlier, everything has a higher expression. Like Mars can be the spiritual warrior, but as his lower end, he can be a very feisty disruptor. Yeah. So now let's see, we were here at this 27th of January. We also, just noting in this chart that anytime you see like a lot of planets in a given sign, we have three signs here in Capricorns. There's a lot of Capricornian energy in the air at this time. Okay, so moving along to the 5th of February. Now, the next three charts I want to show you, they might be good times to note because they're going to give us a more personal experience of what Pluto means for us. So Pluto is a transpersonal planet. It's quite far away. It tends to affect us generationally. If you find Pluto is making an angle, a 60 degree, 120 degree, a 90 degree square, or it's conjunct one of your planets that is personal being Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, or Mercury, then you already have a feeling of what Pluto feels like. Whereas if your Pluto is just all by itself, it's not making any connections with anything, you probably would witness Pluto playing out in your life if you had a Pluto transit. But other than that, your daily routine, you're not going to really feel it. It works very subconsciously. But on this date, the 5th of February, we note now that Mercury, this little green guy, is making a perfect conjunction with Pluto. So for everybody, we're going to get a bit of a taste with our mind. Mercury is of the mind. So just pay attention on the 5th of February. What are you noticing? This could be bringing up something from the deep realms of your psyche that is unconscious, might be bringing it into your consciousness. So a great day to meditate on that, just to watch your thoughts, what's coming up from under the hood, from under the bonnet into my consciousness that I might not have thought about before. And then in a similar way, if we move then to February the 14th, Valentine's Day, the day of love and relationships, we have Mars on Pluto. So he's meeting Pluto now at 0 degrees. And this is very amazing that we have these conjunctions, as we call them, these alignments, so beginning in this new Pluto Aquarius cycle, giving us a taste of what it feels like. So Mars is our will. It's how we action things. It's where we assert and bring energy to do stuff. It's the masculine principle of the chart. Venus is the feminine principle of the chart. So Venus is our desires, what we really like to do. So find Venus in your chart. Where is it in your chart if you want to understand more about what you truly desire to build, to create. And then Mars, he brings the action to that. So Mars and Venus work together. Venus says, I want to create this, and Mars actions that. So on this day, we have Mars. Hopefully he's a spiritual, loving Eros lover, making that conjunction with Pluto, as opposed to being a warring, feisty aggressor. And on the 14th of February, yeah, this could be very interesting for folks in relationships, what might come up from the unconscious realms. Again, Mars being a personal planet into our consciousness. What do you feel that you want to assert that day? This could give you an indication of how Pluto in Aquarius is going to work for you. And then moving on 3 days later, Venus does the same thing. She comes in and she meets Pluto. So as I mentioned, Venus is the feminine principle. She shows us what we desire. She's about our relationships. She's about how we feel about ourselves, our personal self-value. So we might get a real sense of like how we truly subconsciously feel about our own selves, giving us some insight into maybe how we want to make some shifts. Venus also rules finances. So this could be a day where we, have a bit of a moment with ourselves about our finances and what we want to do with them moving forward in this new Aquarian situation. So by now we can see by the 17th of February, we have Mercury, Pluto, Mars, and Venus and the Sun all in this sign of Aquarius. So Aquarius, remember, innovation, breaking out of the box, finding your inner genius. Really let this be a very, I love how Mary refers to be a possibilitarian. Really don't think about life moving forward as being the same as the past. Really use your imagination to imagine what the future can be. Really interesting time for sure. Okay, and then moving on. We are now at the equinox, the spring equinox. And again, if you notice how all the planets are incorporating this one side of the chart, Moon moves relatively quickly, but it was back over here just earlier. So we have this stellium, as we call it, when we have more than 3 planets in a sign. We have this stellium in Pisces. Pisces is compassionate. Pisces is spiritual. Pisces is creative. It's the formless, everything that we can't measure with our 5 senses. So this could be a time where we're feeling, like we want to create, where we can find compassion for the other. Meanwhile, there's a lot of Aries energy going on because this is the day that Sun moves into Aries. This is what marks the spring equinox, equal day, equal night. And I want to point out at this time, Mercury here, just in the couple of days before, around this equinox, is making a conjunction with this little guy here. Notice there's 2. You'll find these in your own personal chart too. This is the North Node and the South Node, and they pertain to the axis that the Moon works around. So the North Node in the general chart, the North Node is what humanity right now, it's always about like what we're trying to stretch into, what we're trying to expand into. The South Node is what we are trying to release and let go of. So these nodes, they actually move backwards through the chart, and they take 18 months to move through a sign. So at this point, the nodes are halfway through their Aries Libra transit. Aries is all about the first house. It's got so much energy that it can activate the spring or the fall in the southern hemisphere. These are called cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, because they have that energy to create a new season. And with Mercury on this node, when something is on the nodes, really brings a lot of more energy to the planet that's on that nodal point. So this is going to be a time where you want to have your pen and paper out and really think, Mercury of the mind. Mercury is going to be so excited in Aries, action, fire, initiation. It's all about starting something brand new. Of course, the spring equinox is the first day of the birthing of the astrological calendar. So Mercury is going to be just pinging our minds of all of these things that we want to grow, that we want to be, that we want to do. So definitely a day to have your pen and paper out to take some notes. Now, the other thing that's important about the nodes is that when we have full and new moons around and close to those nodes, this is what creates eclipses. solar eclipses, new moons, lunar eclipses, full moons. So they're like full new moons on steroids. And because they're happening near those nodes, it means that the Earth's axis running around the sun comes into alignment with the moon's axis that it's rotating around. So think of eclipses as periods of time where we get a recalibration of the energy on the planet. And if you have points a few degrees around where the sun and moon are at that time, it's going to impact you in some way. So what's a recalibration in astrology? It's an ending, or it's a new beginning. It's something that really changes our timeline as we're moving forward. So this is the
So this
first
is for the
day.
collective.
For the collective, yes, equinoxes tend to affect the collective because this is an alignment, a recalibration of the sun, the moon, and the earth. So, the sun is the most important, body in our solar system. It brings the life force. The moon controls our inner emotional world. Where moon is in your chart, this shows you where you need your emotional needs met. It's how you instinctively move through the world. So when Earth makes these profound alignments with the sun and the moon, collectively there is some kind of a recalibration. And when you look historically at eclipses, for example, the eclipses that we had in October last year very much culminated with the beginning of the Palestine-Israel crisis conflict. So, there's always something that occurs. And that was what we call a south node eclipse, because that eclipse was actually over here in Libra. Libra, what's Libra about? Libra is about balance. It's about, we want everything to be nicely balanced. Well, clearly things weren't imbalanced. So we had this big explosive, release, this big conflict began. And solar, when we have eclipses on the south node, when the moon is over by the south node is something about the past. So when if you're looking at it personally, if you have personal planets, sun, moon, Mars, Venus, or Mercury around these eclipse points, or even full and new moons, but especially eclipses, something is probably likely, it indicates that something is going to really shift, because it's bringing that archetype in your chart back into a semblance of bringing it back into alignment. So South Node is about personally, like something about your past karma, something that occurred in the past that now is going to be playing out, around that eclipse time or over those following weeks or even months. Yeah.
Isn't the eclipse supposed to be over Texas?
Correct. So we'll move to the first eclipse now. This is taking place.
I've heard a lot of interesting, comments about what that might mean for Texas individually.
Oh, yes. Very much so. So where the eclipses occur, just having trouble moving my notes down here. Can I do it like this? Go, 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 go. Yeah, where the eclipses occur, we have definitely more of their impact. So this first eclipse, however, this one doesn't affect us in the same way. This one's taking place on the 25th of March. And this is a lunar eclipse in Libra. So this is very much, so they are connected. Eclipses happen every 6 months. They do lead out from the previous eclipse cycle because they're moving with the nodes. So at this point, the nodes are at 15 degrees. We see that at this eclipse, moon's at 5 degrees, sun's in Libra, sun is at opposite the chart because lunar eclipses are full moons. So we have the moon and the sun on opposite sides of the chart. Sun is here at 5 degrees. So if you have in your personal chart anything in those first sort of 9, 10, or 2 to 8 degrees of Aries, Libra, Capricorn, or Cancer, or your ascendant, and what's on the opposite of the descendant. Let me just come back to this chart here, just to demonstrate. These are called the angles of the chart, your ascendant, your descendant. And then this up here, the MC, this is like your legacy, your big public image, your great work, and that grows out of your IC. This is your home, your roots. These are the angles of the chart. So if you see that you've got eclipses hitting those points or your personal planets, then it's likely to have some sort of an impact on you that's going to be related to your past karma. In this case, because this is a south node eclipse taking place, you see that the sun or the moon is very close to that south node, hence, it's making that eclipsing alignment. So the other things to note here that are really interesting, when we look to eclipses, like who's the chart ruler of the eclipse? Well, Venus rules Libra. So we want to look to Venus. And so you might want to see, where is Venus in your chart during that eclipse? Because that's going to give you some indications of what's going on. And Venus is making this conjunction. It's only 4 degrees apart, so it's definitely a conjunction. This is Saturn. Now, Saturn is very much about, how am I doing in terms of dotting my I's and crossing my T's? It's very much the disciplinarian. Think of Saturn, he's got his rings, he's keeping notes, keeping records. He's very much a karmic sign. You did this, so this is going to happen. And so he's very much a serious planet. And so at this period of time, during this eclipse period, Venus, our desires, what we're, our relationships, Libra is very much about relationships, something is being cleared out here. Now, with the nodes in this Aries Libra axis, Aries, as we are stretching into this Aries frequency, Aries is about our I am self, like who I am at my very core level. Because remember, it's the first house of the first zodiac sign. So it's just been born. It's like, oh, I'm alive, I'm a spark. So it wants to survive. And it's very much about me, 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 me. And the opposite, it's always a polarity when we have a full moon or a lunar eclipse. The polarity is me and the other. So while we have the North Node in Aries, we're all trying to strive to come into our uniqueness, who we truly are. Who am I as myself, my true authentic self? What we're trying to release with the South Node are the relationships that we're in that don't support who we truly are. So with the South Node in Libra, it's like, and particularly like through this lunar eclipse, this could be a time to really look at, how is my energy exchange with those that I work with, live with, play with, my significant other, anyone that you have personal relationships with. They may change. You could really just lose a relationship if you have, if your chart is aspecting this chart, a relationship could disappear, a new one could appear, but it's going to ensure that whatever reappears is going to be so much more supporting who you truly are. And so that new relationship, or say that one that's vanished, it's going to be where there was an incorrect energy exchange. Could be you were always doing all the outflowing and you weren't getting much back. So Libra is also about justice, fairness. In Venus's capacity as ruler of Libra, she's about Lady Justice. So there could be some sort of legal or societal, an equity issue coming up at that time. And of course, the other thing I do want to note here is this little key here. This is Chiron. Where you find Chiron in your personal chart is going to give you a key into your own personal healing and healing your life, where there was a wound that you may have experienced young in life. Could be a wound that you actually brought in from a past life. Right now, with Chiron moving through Aries, we're all collectively being healed of some wound that prevents us from being authentic and true to ourselves and really expressing our Aries I am light. And so we see here the North Node's very close. Actually, it's right on it at the moment, on my sun, I might add. So there's this, very much a clearing out to lunar eclipses are a time to heal, a time to clear. And being a South Node eclipse, it's something from the past. So this is very much like it comes with like a release, like a big release with that lunar energy, releasing with that lunar eclipse.
Or maybe
based on personal karma.
People or situations from the past can
Yeah.
better
So it could
come
be
up and be released, I guess.
it could be something that comes arrive, like a health crisis could emerge, or it could be an inheritance. So if it landed in your eighth house, it might be an inheritance. If it landed in your sixth house, it could be something that needs to be taken care of with the physical body, for example. If it's in your seventh house, it may pertain to your relationships. If it's in your 10th house, your career. So this is how you can analyze these eclipses, but they're really only relevant personally if they make those aspects with your personal planets or your angles in your chart. So now moving on, I'll just show you where this eclipse is going to be passing over. This is now the eclipse of April 8. Yeah, coming very close to Houston. It's going to come in from the south here, crossing the borders, and then coming through right along here, along the east of the states. So you see this blue line, this is the path of totality. This is also being referred to as a total USA eclipse. And we had one back in 2017 that you might recall that came in from the west and came down this way. And so what did we see in 2017 was right after the election, but we also saw a big movement with, the social equity. We saw the Black Lives Matter. We saw the whole Weinstein thing blow up. Yeah, it really seemed to impact America for sure. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds. But we'll come back to the chart now. And for that day, I hope it's everyone doing okay looking at these charts. Hopefully so. Okay, so now this one is the eclipse of April 8. And this is a solar eclipse. And this solar eclipse is going to be, I think we get in excess of 85% here in Houston. Solar eclipses, different to lunar eclipses, they're future oriented. And because this is a north node eclipse, you see sun and the moon together at 19 degrees. A north node eclipse is something about the future, something that's going to help us really expand. This can really be the beginning of a new fated beginning. It's energy that we want to work with. So if you have any points, particularly in those cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, then around anywhere from say 15 degrees through to 23 degrees, you're going to have some kind of an impact with this eclipse. It's very, very likely. So in Aries, this is, again, it's about the I am self. This is about really thinking about who you are as an individual, and how you can bring more of your light. Think of your eclipses, the light goes off, the light comes back on again. Who will you be when that light comes back on? Because they really, as we said, it's a calibration. It's like a new timeline emerges. Also note, it's conjunct 19 degrees we have with Chiron. So this could be a real collective healing. People really getting a sense of, I've got to be who I truly am. No more playing this game, for other people, or I'm going to leave that corporation now, bringing into mind that Pluto is, this first degree of Aquarius. We're really feeling more personal power as being in our collective, and moving away from those sort of top-down structures, becoming more individual. Okay, let me see if there's anything else I want to mention here. The other thing I will mention is that Mars is, oh yes, for sure. Mars is the ruler of this eclipse because Mars rules Aries. And this is interesting because now Mars is conjuncting Saturn. We saw that last eclipse, Venus was conjuncting, and now we have Mars conjuncting. So as I said, Saturn is quite serious. Saturn wants you to get disciplined. Saturn wants you to really think about building structures for the future. Saturn's in Pisces. So Saturn's in the formalist. So while Saturn's traveling through Pisces, halfway through this transit, takes about 3 years. This is a period where you might want to develop a spiritual practice, where you want to bring structure to the formless. This could be a period where your dreams really do come into reality, Saturn. This could be a period of time with this conjunction with Mars, where you really feel a great deal of energy that you're wanting to bring to those structures around your creative self. Saying every day I'm going to spend that 30 minutes doing my writing or my playing or whatever it might be, or my meditating, doing something that is sort of working with those outer realms. Now, having said that, Mars and Saturn, in astrology can also be looked at as the malefic planets, the ones that kind of bring a bit of doom and gloom. In that case, Mars is the feisty warrior, and Saturn is very much about restrictions and boundaries. So this eclipse could be very much pertaining to boundaries. Perhaps those border issues between Texas and Mexico are going to come up again a little bit more so. But it's also marking a new Mercury Saturn cycle now, and they're a 2-year cycle. In fact, 6 months ago, at that eclipse that I mentioned in October, Mars was right here at the 1st degree of Scorpio, so it was making its sort of final run before now it's meeting with Saturn to begin this new cycle. So looking at this positively, this is a time to begin something that is pertaining to your creativity, your spirituality, all those areas that deal with the formless. Okay. So now right throughout this period, I do want to mention that we are in our Mercury retrograde. Mercury actually was going retrograde, came into its shadow at the equinox, and it came into its shadow right here. It was actually almost conjunct the North Node. Remember I mentioned that our minds are going to be really just buzzing with ideas and creativity. But then on the 1st of April, it began its retrograde. So if you want to just note Mercury retrograde, April the 1st to April 24. And Mercury moved from the Mars 15 degrees, goes all the way up to 27 degrees of Aries, and then it comes back to that 15 degree point in retrograde. So that retrogrades from the 1st through to the 27th, and then after that it will start to move forward again. So at this point, we're getting very much towards the end of this Mercury retrograde period, because it's 16 degrees. It's only got 1 more degree to go. But the reason I bring this date up, this is a really, really big day in astrology. We have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So you can see them both here. Jupiter, this little symbol looks like a 4, and Uranus, the green one here. I should mention too, Uranus is our higher mind. It's our higher quantum mind. As opposed to Mercury, which is our more regular mind, the upper mind, Uranus, the lower mind, Mercury. Jupiter, it has like an interplay with Saturn, because as I mentioned, Saturn can be restrictive, like you've really got to focus in on everything in 3D space and time, whereas Jupiter is the great expander. So together, Jupiter and Saturn, they're what we call the social planets. One expands and one contracts. So with Jupiter here, very expanding our higher mind. So this could be a day where you feel so excitable, so inspired. This is a day where I'd really encourage you to find some quiet introspection so you can receive those downloads, those sort of Uranian downloads. And being in Taurus, of the earth, of resources, this could be a day where crypto really goes bonkers. I'm hoping it does. Expanding. Now, Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So this could be positive expansion, or it could be not so positive expansion. So we're definitely going to see technological advancements here in the earthy realms. So around this time, we could see some great inventions, being illuminated, coming into the fore, coming into the mindset, coming into consciousness. pertaining to our resources. I know that they've said that AI has moved us 800 years of human research in finding new resources for powering batteries and things like that. So it's probably going to be a lot more of that. Jupiter also has a spiritual component. And it's also, you'll notice it's playing out with Mars, 22 degrees of Pisces. It's making that 60 degrees sextile. So we really could feel a lot of assertive energy around our faith, around our feelings of trust. Jupiter wants to expand. It's the ruler of Sagittarius. It wants to find a new philosophy, new way of doing something. And it's also it co-rules. It's the traditional ruler of Pisces. So we could just be really, mark some time out on this particular day, the 20th of April, to just see where your faith is at, what how that may be shifting, what you want to expand into from your own technological point of view. What's coming up that's really innovative for you. And of course, this is still in spring, so it's a time to really be in that growth spurt phase. Lovely. Okay, moving right along. Okay, the 25th of May. I have mentioned this because Jupiter then moves into Gemini. And I bring this up because we've had Jupiter we've had a lot of earthy energy going on. And this is one of the big new, ingresses that's going to change the energy. So Taurus, where Jupiter has been, is an earth sign. It's very grounded. It's, Taurians, they don't want to get out of the chair. They just want to stay put. And then moving into Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the mind. Ping, there's going to be so much, again, mental energy. And we're going to really feel that there is a lot of things are going to speed up. We're just going to have this perception that things are really, really speeding up. At this time, we've got, this is very much a conjunction between Jupiter, Venus, and Sun. So we're getting a real sense of what we desire, how we want to shine our light. And so notice what you're thinking about on that particular day as Jupiter ingresses Gemini. Very mindful, really giving us a clue as to how we feel. And we're seeing, we're making, you see this, what's called a minor triangle here. So these are very cooperative sorts of angles. So we have Pluto cooperating here with these planets, and the apex point is Neptune. I'll just mention Neptune here, 29 degrees, that anaretic degree. Neptune rules Pisces. Neptune's been running through Pisces for the last, I think it's 84 years. No, beg your pardon, it's longer than that. It's been close to a 20-year transit, maybe 15 years. But this transit is coming to an end early in 2025. So Neptune, very much in the same valence as Pisces. This is about spirituality, creativity, but it can also be about confusion. It can be about delusion. But it's coming to this 29th degree point of Pisces. What does that precede? The first degree point of Aries, which is the beginning of the horoscope. So this 29 degree Pisces is the very last degree point of the whole astrological cycle. So this could be, this period between now and when, Neptune moves into Aries is a time to really look at our karmic woundings, that we may know that we have these ancestral wounds. This is a time to really shed those, to find a process, to find the work that you can do to really let go of those things, especially with Chiron in Aries really helping us to find our sense of self. This is a period of time where we just want to get rid of them, because Pluto moving into Aquarius, this is a big milestone moving into the age of Aquarius. To really fully embody the age of Aquarius, this is peace, love, and understanding. It doesn't work when we've still got these old archaic woundings, old ways of doing things, old ways of feeling wounded and therefore reacting in circumstances inappropriately, creating more hurt and harm in the world. This is a time to really find a practice that works for you, where you can really get rid of whatever might be still troubling you, for sure. Okay, and then the 4th of August, The reason I am bringing this up is because I think we have another Mercury retrograde period here. Yes, so Mercury then is going to retrograde in Leo and Virgo. So this retrograde period is going from 21 degrees Leo. So you can see here, Mercury is at 4-degree Virgo. He's going to go all the way back to 21 degrees of Leo, and then he's going to come forward again. So if you look at this part of your chart, this is where you're going to get a little contemplative sort of mind notion. Mercury retrogrades are where we go back and we redo, we reassess, we redefine, we refine, we recalibrate. You know, Mercury is like a defrag of our brain in retrograde. It's going back to look at what happened in the past. So, you know, I like to, you know, people get freaked out with Mercury retrograde, but really look at it as a period of time where you can sort of look at, you know, what was going on, you know, during July for you. And then when this retrograde kicks in on August the 4th, to really just look back and say, how could I redo something? How could I rethink about something? And in, you know, he starts off here in Virgo. Virgo, Mercury rules Virgo. Virgo is all about, you know, how we really are good at what we do. It's like Virgo is the sign of perfection. Correlates with the 6th house before we move into ourselves and the other. So this is where we really want to look at with our minds, like, how can I perfect my daily routine? And then as it moves back into Leo, how can I be more of my sovereign self? How can I be a better leader of my own life? So these are the sorts of things that will be playing out during this Mercury retrograde, taking place August 4 to August 27. And then we are moving to August the 28th. That's the end of that Mercurial retrograde. Probably don't need to bother about that. I'm just mindful of the time here. And then we move into the next eclipse season. Again, very, very big eclipse season. So we can see that the nodes are still in Aries and Libra, but this first eclipse is a lunar eclipse, but the moon is actually in Pisces. So we don't get a lunar eclipse in Aries, but see, it's still close enough to the nodes that it's eclipsed, but it's actually a Pisces lunar eclipse. So this is beautiful.
September?
Yes, this is September the 17th. Beg your pardon. Yes. So, you know, just one other thing I want to mention, sorry about this, going back to that April 8th eclipse, there is also a comet. It's called the Pons-Brooks Comet. We only see it every 70, 71 years. So can you imagine when the sky goes dark during that solar eclipse, look up to the sky towards Jupiter, and it's very likely you're going to see a comet. Now, historically, comets bring good things or they bring about bad things. It just depends, but they definitely seem to denote a period of big shift in human consciousness and big shifts in, you know, something happening on the planet. Sometimes they have been times that really denote a person really coming into public consciousness, someone who's going to make a big sort of impact on humanity. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. So what do we see in this chart? I want to point out, do you see this kite formation? There's this beautiful kite. So the way kites work energetically, the tail of the kite is what propels the kite. We have the sun at the tail. The sun is in Venus, in Virgo. So we know Virgo is about that perfecting of the self, perfecting our daily routine. So, you know, while the sun comes through Virgo, it's a time where we're all trying to really, you know, sort of level up on our self-care routines, really getting our daily routines going. But then during the eclipse, it's propelling this light, empowering the chart, coming through, getting support from Pluto, who notice has retrograded, that little R has gone back into Capricorn. So again, we're getting a chance to revisit, what are those things I want to let go of in my world that I have established over a long period of time? What isn't working for me? We get the final chance to do that. And Pluto is working with Uranus over here. Uranus, that, the quantum mind, like bringing in, who's also gone back into retrograde. How can I sort of really open my mind to doing things differently to build that new foundation? So we've got, as you can see, a trine between Sun, Pluto, and Aquarius. So trines, beautifully all harmonizing, working together. And together, they bring the power to the moon here at 25 degrees. And notice how then moon in this mini triangle is working also with Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus. So this is going to be a really great opportunity to really let go of stuff, with the moon being this lunar eclipse in Pisces. Pisces, healing. It's right towards the end of the whole zodiac. So this is really letting go of like all the stuff, from all the way through all the houses, from Aries all the way through. It could be such a period where we really heal, overcome, let go. Our eclipses, just letting go of the old stuff. And when we have like a north node lunar eclipse, these, really come with a big culmination, bringing about a new possibility, because it's a north node. So it's about something new coming in. So you're creating a space, like a vacuum, so that you can bring in something that you might not be aware of, at all. Mars down
It's
here.
like a time for great transformation.
Yes. And we might really feel very pushed, because Mars here at 7 degrees in Cancer. Cancer is about the home. It's the crab, it's a vulnerable sign. It's, Mars is going, oh, how can I be nurtured? Mars is fire. It's in a water sign here. So it feels it's a bit uncomfortable, but Mars is squaring the nodes. Nodes are at 6 degrees, Mars here at 7. They're making that 90-degree angle. So this could be a period where we really feel like, oh, I've got to make that change. Like we feel like we want to assert, but we're kind of hanging on to the past, but we want to move into the future. So really tap into this beautiful kite. See yourself flying with that beautiful sun pushing you higher and higher into a new self, expression of self. And the other thing I want to point out is Jupiter here, the great benevolent expander. He's also working with the chart, working with his eclipse too, 20 degrees squaring the eclipse. So we could feel, again, it's a square, it can be a bit challenging, but there's definitely energy here that's going to be pushing us forward, that really wants us to make a change. And this is September. We're going to have seen a lot of changes by this point. We might really have a greater sense of like who we are moving forward at this time, and what it is that we're sort of resisting to let go of. This is a time to release resistance. Take a big breath and just work with that lunar energy at that eclipse. And then moving into the next one on October the 2nd, we have a solar eclipse. And this is a south node solar eclipse, because we notice we have, am I at the right place here? 2nd of October, yes. So we have the sun and the moon together with the south node. So south node is about the past. So this is about something from the past is something from the past is generating a fated new beginning. And remember that if you have points, several degrees on either side of these eclipses, or an angle, MCIC, ascendant, descendant, this is going to impact you more profoundly. Otherwise, it's going to affect everybody collectively. And so with this eclipse here, we've got Sun, Moon conjunct Black Moon Lilith. I haven't talked about her. Black Moon Lilith is like the dark side of the moon. It's very unconscious energy. So this is about our shadow. And this is part of the specialty that I work in with astrology. It's really working with Chiron and Black Moon Lilith to really uncover our shadow side, so we can shine a light on it and bring it into the light, as it were. So we could be really reflecting on something historically, part of our shadow that can really be released at this time. And notice it's also conjuncting Mercury. So we're going to get mental downloads. Like our mind is going to be very engaged here with this eclipse. We're probably going to get some information from our subconscious with this Black Moon Lilith being here that's giving us a bit of a clue, like, oh my goodness, I've been doing that. Because what they say with Black Moon Lilith is quite often other people see your Black Moon Lilith, but it's a blind spot for ourselves. So this could be a day where that blind spot sort of becomes also blind, and we get a bit of an awareness into, the inner workings of our psyche. At the
Well, and
same
it's
time,
getting close to election time,
oh
that's in
yes.
October. Yeah.
Yes, the astrology moving forward now is quite remarkable when it comes to the elections. The other thing I'll just point out is that we have this beautiful trine here. So we've got lovely energy, a very harmonious energy. Mars, our assertive nature, working, it's a water trine, working with Venus. So, our creative self is really being stimulated here. Venus in inquiring, fierce Scorpio, and making that trine with Saturn. So Saturn's wanting to build structure. So it's a very creative moon here where we could really make some nice changes for ourselves. And then we also see this little micro mini triangle that we had in that last eclipse too. And they're very cooperative. They're very, it brings a versatility into play. And we have Chiron making a 60-degree cooperative sextile with Jupiter in both these charts. So there's an expansion of the healing that we've been receiving from Chiron, bringing us more aware of ourselves. So with all of these eclipses, really a time to, really carve some minutes out for yourself, be introspective, focus on that, moment of now, see what just comes up, keep breathing, drink plenty of water throughout them so the energy can move through, do some nice breath work, keep the energy moving through them, because these are recalibrations. So they're working through us as well. Great. And then I believe we move into 25th of November. This is where we have Mercury going back into its retrograde period. This retrograde is going to be in Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is up here. Mercury is going to be moving from 22 degrees Sag, moving all the way back to 6 degrees of Sag, and then it's going to start again. The Mercury retrograde here is November 23 to December 15. And in Sagittarius, this is where we're going to be working on our mind from the standpoint of what is your philosophy? What is your belief system? Are your beliefs truly your beliefs? Or are they beliefs that you may have inherited from your family, from your tribe? This whole period of Pluto moving into Aquarius, we're going to be refurbishing the people that we associate with, particularly with the nodes in Aries, Libra. So this could be a period of time where we really rethink our belief system, where we really look at where is my faith? What do I have faith in? Maybe that is shifting. Maybe we're thinking very differently about what political party we're getting behind. Who knows? But Sagittarius, it's the archer. He's always aiming for something higher and brighter and more expansive. This could be a time where you consider, I want to really expand my knowledge base. And there's also a wisdom that comes in with this. So really connecting, with the parts of our mind and whatever's been going on for you in and around that period of big, end of October through to November, coming out of that eclipse period, what have you been working? What's been happening? How can I redo? How can I readdress? How can I realign? All those re-words are what Mercury retrogrades are about. Wonderful. So finally, the way this year ends is we have Mars going into retrograde. It's a lot of Mars energy going on this year, particularly, with the North Node in Aries and with Mars ruling Aries. Mars is quite important. But what happens right at the end of the year is Mars goes retrograde, and it goes from Leo back into Cancer, and then back into Leo again. Let me look at the dates on that.
So what does Mars retrograde represent?
So this is going to be a period
Versus the
where,
Mercury.
yeah, so Mars is really like looking at how we assert ourselves. It's also looking at who we truly are. Like, how do I show up in the world as a spiritual warrior? Sorry to grab that. You know, how do I action myself? Can I be better at actioning who I am? So we're going from 6th sixth of Leo through to this back to the 17th of Cancer. So from this point here, we go back to into the 17th of Cancer, and then coming forward again. This is going to last all the way through into February. When planets retrograde, they come closer to the Earth, so they're a little bit more potent. So, you know, the Mars in Leo phase, Mars really likes to be in Leo because they're both fire signs. So this is about, you know, Mars actioning your sovereignty. Leo is about being your, you know, the king of your jungle. So how do I really show up and action being the leader in my own life? Am I showing up for myself every day? This is going to be a period of introspection where we can really look at, you know, am I the leader of am I steering my own ship, or is somebody else steering my ship? Or really taking back our sovereignty. As it goes back into Cancer, you know, Mars, whilst he's not all that happy in Cancer being a water sign, this is how do I nurture myself? What actions do I bring into my life where I take care of my home, take care of my family, take care of my emotional self? So, you know, from a collective point of view, Mars in Cancer, you know, it could be a little bit feisty in terms of the Cancer is the home, you know, is Mars in there taking homes from people? Is it, you know, coming out there, swords blaring, raised, you know, sort of invading others' homes? We hope not. But Cancer is about how we take care of our inner world, our inner life. So it's going to be a period where we look at how we assert, how we action, how we show up for ourselves, nurturing our families, nurturing ourselves, and then making a nice new way forward as we move into 2025 and into February. So we have 10 minutes to go. I'll stop sharing the screen now and see if there's any questions.
Okay,
Go
we
to the
had
chat.
one question earlier. It was how
Yes,
long is
Uranus.
Taurus?
So Uranus comes out of Taurus, I believe. I was thinking it was next year. Let me just move forward and see where that is. I'm pretty sure it comes out next year, because that's the thing. Like we have these cycles. You know, we have Jupiter moving signs this year. And we have, you know, what's important is Pisces at that 29 degree. Yeah, so here I'm just moving through the chart. Let's go back. 29 degrees. Okay, so it's 2026 in April. We have Uranus at that last degree point of Taurus. So that's going to kick in 2026. But between now and, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing my screen, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically the answer is until 2026.
So whilst Uranus is in Taurus, this is where we're really seeing, you know, resources, finances, really being changed up, you know, in a very Uranian, Aquarian style way. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we know that's getting ready to change.
When we see Uranus go into Mercury, though, Gemini, though, whoa, that's going to be a very fast period of time, because we've got the higher mind, Uranus, really just working at quantum speeds in Gemini that rules the mind. So a lot of really crazy communication. This could be a period when we see AI really going through the roof in terms of how we're using it, what it's doing. I mean, this might be really when quantum computing really kicks in at that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Kalyan? I know she's covered a lot of stuff, kind of a like general overview for the year. So yeah, I know I wrote down a lot of dates just to kind of get all that stuff. The yeah, I mean, I from kind of what I gather is we're just in for a lot of change. It's sort of looking how we excuse me, I heard a lot of Mars, active Mars, kind of in all the things you talked about, which is the I am, but we're in the Aquarius, so that's also as a collective, how are we
So it is
moving forward?
interesting because Aquarius, as much as it's about the collective, it's about everyone brings its own individual jigsaw piece to the collective. So, as we said, Aquarius is the most humanitarian sign, but it's not like gushy and warm and fuzzy. It's an air sign. So it's about how can the collective work together in a horizontal fashion, not the top-down fashion, so that everybody is taken care of. And the way that happens is that everybody plays their unique roles. So right now it's our job to find out, well, what is my unique role with, moving with that North Node in Aries? Who am I? Chiron moving through Aries at this time, really moving out any of those woundings that have been holding people away from being who they truly are. Bringing more confidence, more courage. Aries is very much a courageous sign. So really looking to how we're able to step into our personal I am self so that we can bring that to the collective. Yeah.
So what I hear, embracing your authenticity, right? That you're courageously stepping into the truth of who you are so you can be that piece of the puzzle that is so desperately needed
Yeah.
in our collective um, I don't know.
Yeah. Our collective tapestry. And,
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
we have 2000 years to get the age of Aquarius right. But with Pluto moving into Aquarius now, this is a cycle of time where we're going to see a lot of, rumblings at that fundamental foundational level, really starting to make way for that.
So I would like to just sort of wrap up a little bit on a positive note because I think a lot of people have a lot of trepidation about this year because I know we all sense that impending change that is happening, that the momentum's already there that we can't, stop, which we need, right? The top down is not working, but um, is there something you can say as to just,
Yeah,
reminding people about,
I think I really believe that I think a lot of people are getting very concerned about, AI and the technologies that are coming about because it creates a lot of confusion. As I mentioned, Neptune coming into that anaretic degree, that really does represent things are confusing, like what's real, what's fake, how do I discern? But it's also a period where, we have Saturn moving through Pisces. All the planets come through Pisces for the most part, not Uranus or Pluto, but and Jupiter's gone by. But this is a period whereby we want to, whilst we're working on who we truly are, we need to develop our intuition. And this is very much about being an Aquarian age person, is really connecting with our intuition, our intuitive capacity. So Aquarius is the higher mind. It's beyond the five senses. We have to recognize that whilst, okay, we can work to understand what things are through our five senses, that we do have a sixth sense. So how do we develop that? This is simply something we can do each and every day, practicing mindfulness. Just allowing yourself that time, set the timer, 11 minutes, and just sit there. I'm going to sit here and just keep pulling the mind back to the present moment. This is brain training for your intuition. Allowing yourself to clear the mind, to really practice having that focus in the moment of now. Because when we're in the moment of now, we can come into our heart. So there's a period then, like, so you're really focusing. I use a silver method technique, counting back from 100 and really trying to hold my mind there. And if I can find that place on any given day, then dropping into your heart, imagine breathing in to your heart and then exhale, dropping into your heart. This is the point right in the middle of the seesaw. It's the point where there's nothing in the past in our mind and there's nothing in the future in our mind. So we find that 0 point. And this is the point where we can then connect with the universal mind. And that is where then we get the knowledge of the universe. We all do have the capacity to connect with our intuition, to connect with everything that we need to know. A lot of folks are feeling so overwhelmed. It's almost like we've busted through the age of information, because now, we don't, like the top-down structures, you don't even have to pay for information like you once did. It's just available. You can find everything anywhere. You can practically do any degree on YouTube these days. It's all there. But it's now discerning intuitively, what is it that I should learn? What is it that I should spend my time on cultivating based upon who I am? Not based on what I've been doing in the past, not based on the corporation that, has had my back in the past, but maybe not moving forward. This is about really, we're taking these big steps. Like, this really is a pioneering journey as we move forward. So cultivating intuition so that you can really just know. It's about having a knowingness, and that's fake and that's real. I can trust that. I can't trust that. That's the book that I need to read. This is the one I need to leave behind. And just getting that sense of just trusting that, the world is meeting there with every step that you take. You're coming back into faith and trust. Yeah, Aquarius, is a really exciting place for Pluto to be now. It's going to really, really show us ways personally how we can find that deep intuition. Pluto is about our deep, deep, deep sense of self. So I think and the other thing too is, when you're doing those mindful meditation practices, imagining the world that you want to see in the future. We're starting to realize in this new sort of age moving forward that we are the creators of our reality, to rather than sort of look backwards in order to cast out for, what we think is going to happen moving forward, is using our imagination to really get excited about the world that we want to see, and using it, it's very, very, we are creators, we are powerful creators. And so just taking a minute of those 11 to just imagining the water's clear, everybody fully sustained, everybody healthy, everybody having access to what they need. This is, I think, very much the power that we often don't use, that we really have at our minds, at our fingertips.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I think that community is going to be more important now than ever before. So I think we've got to plug in and find our community.
That's really true. Aquarius is very much about the community, the collective. So again, being courageous enough to leave the relationships behind that don't support who you truly are, and find the tribe, find your community where you can thrive, where you can bring your talents, where you will be supported, where you do have synergy and resonance with others. Because it'll be all those little sort of factions then that are like the little squares of the rug, that then come together. And I mean, there's so much unknown moving forward. I know it can be quite startling, and certainly I gave up watching the news a long time ago because it just made me too terrified. But I think it's find the good news, and there's channels that are broadcasting really great things, and focus on being more mindful and finding that intuitive self that is right there. In yoga, we call it being a self-sensory human. Yeah, really developing that sixth sense. That's what we'll be called to do now. The first 5 chakras come to here. Close your eyes and bring your awareness to your 6th chakra, your 6th sense. Look into that space. Breathe in and out of your heart. And it's like a muscle with practice. Yeah, we get good at it.
Thank you so much. So now, if
Pleasure.
someone wants to have a personal session with you, do you want to put
Yes,
your information in the chat? I mean,
sure.
I know it's on the email and it'll go out with our replay, but so you're available for
Absolutely. Yeah, I can
sessions.
cast all kinds of charts for you personally that really show, for example, what the flavor of this year is for you, who your particular chart ruler is of this year for you, how the aspects, the main transits are going to impact your chart. And yeah, there's very personal reading, personal dates that are good for you. And then, of course, if you have more considerations about your career or your relationships, then readings can be focused on those sorts of things, or just your personal direction forward, where you feel like sometimes we have all of these different ideas. I could do this, but the chart can really help focus on where those strengths really, really lie.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and the yes, so people can get hold of you. You've got your email in the chat, and they can reach out to you that way for a session. Let's see, and then you'll be back in Houston
Yeah.
in 6
Back in
months.
Houston, yeah.
In time for an eclipse, sounds like.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I'll be
So,
back right there at the beginning of March. So if you ever want to book a physical session with meditation or yoga, I'm very much open to that as well. Yeah,
okay, excellent. So
great.
thank you so much, and
Thank you so much.
this has been great. And for those of you watching, if you would like to make a donation, we're always appreciative to keep us going and handle the overhead. So we thank you so much. And I'm going to turn off our recording.
Okay.